Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time here, hi, my name is Carrington, not your first time here, hi, welcome back. If you enjoy anything book or makeup related, this is definitely going to be the channel for you, so make sure you guys have subscribed, click the little bell so you can be notified of all my future uploads. Also, disclaimer, I am very much getting sick, and my voice sounds terrible, okay? But the show must go on, so it is what it is. So in today's video, I'm going to be ranking the 10 books that I read in this month of September. I'm going to be telling you why they are ranked in the order that they are ranked, what I liked about the books, what I didn't. So if you guys are excited to see what 10 books I read, how I would rank them, then definitely keep on watching. So starting off in 10th place is one that you could only get on Kindle or Audible. There's not an option for hardback or paperback. But this is from Lucinda Berry, and this is a welcome reunion with like welcome crossed out. This is going to be the second part of A Perfect Child. And let me just say first and foremost, all the books that I read this month I actually really enjoyed. There's not any that I hated or wish I had never read or anything like that. I just have to rank them. So this one is really short and sweet. So this follows up after A Perfect Child, which we'll talk about later because that is in my books as well that I read last month. But this is about Janie, who is now an adult, and she thinks that she has really changed her life. She's now wrote a book. She's gone on TV to talk about her experiences. And in this book, she writes, not this book specifically, but in this book that she writes, she talks about how this family that had adopted her were terrible parents, gave up on her. They knew that she was really traumatized, and they really didn't even try at all, and is really trying to paint them in this bad light. So on top of painting them in this bad light, these parents are supposed to have absolutely no contact with her whatsoever, per a court agreement that they had. And the couple has a son. The son was there from in the first book as well. And he starts acting really different, really moody. And then it comes out that he has been talking with Janie. And she has been really like brainwashing him into believing that their parents did not try to help her at all. And then lied to him about like the terrible things that happened in this home that she was in, such as like assaults and abuse and just a ton of other things that has never ever been corroborated by anyone. And they try to explain to him what actually happened, and he just does not want to hear it. He doesn't believe it at all. And there are just so many things happening in this book. It's really, really good. I thought the ending was okay. I think that I don't know what I feel like, yes, this is the only way that like this girl is ever going to get any of the help that she needs, because with her being gone from the age of like 7, 8, 9 years old until the age of 18 in this home, that wasn't enough time. But I just felt like I really wish there was just like something more to it. I just felt like the ending was just kind of one of those, like, this is the only way to, like, help this girl, instead of trying to take her to court or anything else like that, or getting help for her son, because they, in the end, they wanted to save their son from anything bad happening, and that would include, you know, him getting in trouble with the law. And it's like, listen, I get you want to protect your kids because I have kids and I would do anything for them, but sometimes all the saving that you do is only enabling their poor behavior. So I just didn't really like the way that it ended. Long story short, I just thought it could have been better. The next book is going to be A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park. This is a nonfiction. I think this is the only nonfiction book that I read this month. I'm pretty sure. Is the only nonfiction book that I read this month. And this kind of follows two people. So the beginnings of the chapters usually talk about Naya. And she is in 2008. So this is like 2008. Naya is part of a specific tribe. She has to walk miles every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, to get water for the family. So that way they can feed the family, water their crops, water their cows, their animals, things like that. So she has to walk all of these miles every single day, and it's tiring, it's exhausting, as we all know. And then at the next part of the chapter, it then goes on to talk about Salva, yes, based in 1985. And this just talks about how he was in school and he was doing really well. He was thriving in life with his family. And one day he's at school and they hear a whole bunch of gunshots. And that's when the teacher looks out and sees that it is a Sudan army. And he's all like, just run. Don't go back to the village. You need to leave now. So he is running away and following a group of people, has no idea where his family is. He believes them to be dead at this point, but he follows a group. And eventually he meets his uncle for a short time. And he has some friends. And unfortunately, there's a lot of death along the way. But they make it to refugee camps. I really wish they would have given more information about his time in refugee camps, like what that was like. Because he spent a lot of years in refugee camps. But it never really talks about what happened in the refugee camps. Like what all he did there, or what a day-to-day like life would look like. Nothing like that. It was just very much, I'm at this refugee camp. Now there's a bunch of people here. Haven't found my family. Now a few years later, we're forced to leave again. We go to this next refugee camp, so on and so forth. But eventually he is elected to come to America. And he comes to America and he lives with a family. And he goes to college and he builds his education and he starts his very own business. And with the help of a lot of donors, he takes his idea and he goes to Naya's camp to set up a well for them. So they don't have to keep walking for miles for water. So he just puts in a well for them to get water from. And they are both from different tribes in the same area. And they usually would fight over the water. But now she realizes that like they don't have to do that anymore. There's perfectly good access to water for all of them. It was just really good. I thought it was really inspiring. It's a really short, quick read. But again, I just wish, just a little bit, I just wish that it just talked more about his time in the refugee camp and even more of his time with his like a family that he meets over in like America that like houses him and helps him get on his feet and get into college and all of that. I wish there was just more of that information, but this was a really, really good and uplifting book. Coming in 8th place is going to be Along the River of Flesh. This is going to be the sequel to Gone to See the Riverman, which I will talk about because I did read that one as well. But this one is Along the River of Flesh. So after the first book, Edmund Cox, who is a serial killer, is freed from jail because there was a riot that broke out and he was able to escape. So now there's a police officer who is put on leave after there was a shooting with a suspect where the other person died. So he's on leave while they investigate. Well, he is not very happy with this. And he's even more unhappy that Edmund Cox is now out on the loose. So now he wants to go and find Edmund Cox. So he thinks he knows exactly where he's going to be able to find Edmund Cox, which is going to be in his hometown, Killen. That's what it's called. Killen. I know. Anyways. Then, on top of that, Edmund is back in Killen, and it just kind of talks about how he is on his way to see the Riverman. He wants to strike up a deal with the Riverman. And it just kind of talks about, like, along the way, he murders some people, and it's pretty gruesome in how they talk about that, so make sure you check your trigger warnings for that. This book has a lot of trigger warnings, but so he's just like talking about like his journey, and it kind of goes back into like his life, like what his life was like before, like as a teenager. And then there's like a private investigator named Gary, and Gary is trying to figure out what happened to this family's daughter. Fits the description of the women that Edmund Cox liked to kill. He really liked Asian women or women with like dark hair and dark eyes and were really pale. That was who he really particularly, that was his people of choice. I will go with that. And so he's trying to figure out what happened to her. Where is she? So he's in Killen trying to like interview townspeople, and no one wants to give any information. They don't really like cops lurking around. But he finally gets to talk to somebody who tells him about the Riverman. And this guy is like, I'm not really for sure what is going on with this riverman, but I'm going to set out to find him, get some more information. And then last, there's this girl who wants to go and meet Edmund Cox for her own reasons. We don't know what that is. But what's so interesting about these books that I really like is that at the beginning, before anybody starts getting on to the river, really getting deep into where gone to the riverman lies, is you have this one perception of this person and what they're like and what their motives are. But then as they set off and they get closer and closer and closer to the riverman, they start having flashbacks of all the terrible things that they have done in their lives. And you get to see these people for who they really are. And it's just very interesting, all of the background that all of these people have. But what I also really like is then they, all meet the riverman and they all want to strike a deal. And it's just always interesting that, what is somebody willing to trade to get whatever it is that they want? And what is it that they want in the end? What is it they're willing to trade? Their soul or themselves or murder other people in the name of the riverman to get what they want? And it's just so interesting to think about, what would you be willing to trade or give up to get whatever you wanted, and what would you go there and wish for? It's just always so interesting. I just hated the ending. It does leave it open for additional books, which I'm not sure if that's what the author is intending, to write more books or not. I haven't really looked that hard into it. This one just came out, but I was just like, we could have had any other ending. Anything. And this is the one that they chose. And I was just very unhappy with it. I just was. Okay? I'm just going to say whatever. I'm just going to say it. I was very disappointed. Number 7 is going to be What Lies in the Woods. This is a book that we read for my Works of Book Club. And I really did enjoy this book. It definitely kept you going with some twists and some turns. And everyone that was in my book club that had read this was even in agreement that they were just like, what is going on? And the thing is, it was slowly building up. So it's kind of like a slow burn. But it was just so interesting with all the little bits that would happen, the little pieces of information that would be released, the people that would show up in the book, years later or whatever the case may be. And really makes you think. So this is about 3 friends. You've got Naomi, Olivia, and Cassidy. And when they were much younger, one of them, Naomi, was attacked while they were playing in the woods. And she put away a man in jail by identifying him. But now, years later, she's being asked, how do you know it was this person? Because the rest of your story doesn't match up. It doesn't make sense that you would be able to identify this person so solidly when the person came up behind you, when you can't remember anything else about that day, but you can remember this person specifically. So then she starts to really question and doubt herself about what really happened. And then her friend Olivia gets all 3 of the friends together and is like, we need to tell people the truth. We need to tell them what really happened. And Cassidy is just like, no. This could have a lot of negative consequences for everyone. And Olivia is just like, I don't care. Olivia has really struggled with mental health issues for a long time. But then Olivia goes missing and Naomi's trying to find her. And Cassidy's like, she does this all the time. And she's like, no, I don't think so. So she goes visits the parents' house. And the dad just really does not like her. But Olivia's mom really does seem to like her. But then more secrets are just unfolding. They talk about Persephone because they found a thing of bones lying in these trees. And they call her Persephone, and they were just doing spells and stuff with it. And now she feels like they should go forward and tell the police about Persephone and see if there's any link between that girl and who attacked her. Because, again, she can't really remember who attacked her. Her friends are always just telling her it's this person. But then just more twists and turns and secrets of the whole entire town, of Cassidy's parents, Olivia's parents, her own parents, this reporter that's there in town. Just so many secrets are revealed. And when I think about this, what lies in the woods, what lies there? Because somebody is lying there that's dead, right? But there's so many lies wrapped up in the woods and what happened that day. it was just really, really good. And I did like the way that it ended, but I would have liked to have seen what was going to come of it, instead of just ending it there and just being like, we'll see how it goes. And I would have been like, okay, but I want to know how it goes. Like, can you give me a little something? The next book is going to be Gone to See the Riverman. So this is the original book of the series, and Along the River of the Flesh was the sequel. I don't know if there's going to be another, but I'm going to presume based on the way that the other one ended, there will be. But, so this is about Lori, and Lori is communicating with this man named Edmund Cox, who's a serial killer in prison. Now, when you first start hearing about this story, you hear that she is wanting to get the best story because her dream is to become like a really big writer, whether that be a book, a news writer, something. She just wants to be able to make like a groundbreaking book or revelation. So she starts talking with Edmund Cox in prison, almost kind of like a groupie, right? And she's talking to him in prison and trying to form like this connection. She goes and visits him, and he's always talking about how he's talking to all these other women as well. And so he's trying to find the one that's willing to go on this mission for him to see the Riverman and bring him a key. And Lori's like, listen, I want the breaking story, because Edmund Cox never talks about why he does what he does, how he chooses his victims. He literally just is very quiet and keeps that to himself. So she's like, I want to know so I can write this groundbreaking story. So he says, you need to go to Killen. You need to follow this river. There's going to be a shack, and there's a key in the chest. I need you to get that. You're then going to continue on. You're going to go to the Riverman, and you're going to give him that key. And she's like, okay, I can do this. So she's trying to leave, and she has her younger sister. Her sister's name is Abby, and she has a sister who had a traumatic brain injury later on in life. And so now Lori is stuck taking care of her because her parents have since passed away, and there's nobody else in the family to take care of her. So Lori feels like it's her responsibility to take care of her. And Abby is like, I want to go with you. I want to go with you. And at first Lori was like, absolutely not. But finally she was like, fine, you can come with, but it's going to be a long, treacherous journey, and you're not going to enjoy it. So they start traveling on, and again, more secrets are being revealed about both Abby and Lori. And they finally find the key in the chest, and they finally make it to the Riverman, and they each have to give something to get whatever their wish is. And again, it's just so interesting how they have chosen what they chose to give away. And what they choose in the end is what they're wanting. And then the way that it ended, I was just like, you did all of that for this? You did all of that for this? What? But yeah. But I thought it was a really good book because, again, it just makes you think about, like, somebody can, like, come off, like, such a certain way when you're talking to them. But, like, deep down, you don't really know who they are. And it's just so interesting that, like, what people are willing to put on the line or do to other people or trade in to get whatever they want. And then for them to then tell you what it is that they want. And sometimes it's, like, so dark and sinister. And you're just like, what is happening? So I thought it was very, very good and very just, like, mind-provoking. But, again, check trigger warnings because I'm sure there are a ton. Number 5 is going to be Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. I was actually pleasantly shocked on how good this book was. And I actually really did enjoy it. First of all, hi, my name is Carrington. I love books, I love makeup, and I love Disney. Those are 3 things that have consistently, throughout my whole entire life, been things that I love. Okay? It just is what it is. And this right here, Long Live the Pumpkin Queen, I was kind of like iffy about whether or not I would like this, but I 1000% did. So it just kind of really honestly takes over from the end of The Nightmare Before Christmas, where they're up on the hill and they kiss. So now they're getting married. A year later, the mayor has married them, and now she's the queen of Halloween Town and the Pumpkin Queen. And everybody is, like, starting to, like, put her down for how she looks. Like, her hair is too straight. Now that she's queen, everyone is like, well, you need to wear a specific dress. Your hair needs to look a certain way. And Sally's like, what is wrong with me the way that I am? And everyone's like, oh, nothing, but you're a queen now. And she was just like, maybe I don't want to be queen. And she's very happy being married to Jack. She loves being married to Jack. She's glad that she doesn't have to live with Dr. Finkelstein anymore, the little man in the wheelchair. She's glad she doesn't have to live with him anymore, but she just feels like she doesn't want to be a queen and be a fake queen at that. And so they set off on their honeymoon, and Jack takes her to Valentine's Town, which they go to the little grove, and the one that has the heart on it, that's the one that they go to, and they spend a day or two there. And she gets to meet all of the different creatures and things like that that's in this town. Like, there's a lot of cupids, and there is a mayor that's there that she's like is a woman, and she's like, oh, I'm so like wowed by like how put together she looks, everything else like that. But when she gets back and the people are still just like, we need you to change, she's just like, I just need a minute. I need a minute. And she starts strolling, and she goes along the trees again. But then she just kind of keeps walking past. She notices this other tree that's really kind of covered up with like a lot of like twine, tree limbs. And so she pushes all of that out of the way and sees that it's a door with a moon on it. So she opens it, and it smells like chamomile tea, lavender, and she kind of just like falls in it. And she said it just felt like she was floating on clouds. And then she, went to leave. But then she noticed when she finally got back that everyone was asleep, and that there's these little like dust particles all around her. And she's like, what is going on? That's when she realizes that she had left the door to this dream town open. And now the Sandman is out, sprinkling dust on everyone. And he tries to throw the dust on her, but it doesn't work. And now she's like trying to run from him, and he knows that she's awake. So he is spending all of his time trying to find her here in Halloween Town. So she runs, and she goes to all of the other worlds. She goes to St. Patrick's Day, Easter. She goes back to Valentine's Land, and everyone is asleep. Finally, when she does go to the St. Patrick's one, however, she does see a leprechaun that was able to make it away from the Sandman and not be put to sleep. And he's like, maybe you need to go to Dreamtown. He said, maybe you need to go to his town to figure out how to stop him. And at first she's like really scared to do so, but then she's like, no, it's fine, I'll go. So she goes, and she meets a lot of people along the way. And she meets the mayor and his wife meet with her, and she starts unraveling a lot of truth about herself that she's struggling with at the time, because who she thought she was her whole entire life up until now has all been a lie. And now she figures out a little bit more about the Sandman, the past, everything like that, to try and figure out how to defeat the Sandman. And she's going through books in this library, and she thinks she has finally figured out how to do this. But the dream town is like, we can't allow the Sandman to come back. Like, we'll have to get rid of all the trees. You'll have to go through human world, and then we'll destroy that as well. Like, you will never be able to see us again. The Sandman will never be able to come back. And she's like, okay. So she goes back to Halloween Town. And she works really hard to save the day. If she's able to, what the secret is, what happens in the end. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a really cute book. This definitely is not necessarily like one that only adults could read. This would definitely be like a good like young adult. If you have children that like The Nightmare Before Christmas, this might be a good book to read to them. There's nothing like huge or no triggers or anything else like that. I thought it was just a good continuation of the story, and I was very impressed. Number 4 is another Disney book. This is the only other Disney book that I read, but this is as old as time. So this is like a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and I thought this was very, very well done. So it kind of goes back and forth from like past to present time, and when you're in the present time for the very first part of the book, it's very much like the cartoon Disney movie that you would watch of this, like the original cartoon version of this. It has the exact same like sentences that are said, the exact same scenery, characters, things like that. All of that's the same. But then you get a glimpse of like the past, and This is before Belle is even born. And it talks about Belle's mom. Because in the movie, we don't ever hear anything about Belle's mom. But in this, it talks about Belle's mom and her as an enchantress. And how this town used to be so inclusive of those that were magical. Until suddenly they weren't. And now all these people were going missing. Or their houses were being burned down. And no one that had any magical powers were safe. And so Belle's mom has to take matters into her own hands. And so now Belle is trapped in the castle. And in this, the castle is a little bit different. In that, as like the time goes on, like webbing, like spider webbing, is holding everyone intact in this castle. And basically what happens is on the Beast's 21st birthday, this whole entire castle will be covered in like these spider webs, and they will never be able to leave, and no one will ever be able to find this kingdom. They're going to be lost and forgotten about forever. So now Belle and the Beast take it upon themselves to try to figure out how to break this curse. And there's multiple mirrors. Like in the movie, there's only one, but there's actually multiple mirrors in this book. And so they're able to see things that they can't really figure out where it's coming from, who it is that they're seeing in this mirror. So they're trying to like solve that. And they do. And it's insane. And it's crazy how all of this, like they just like persecuted like a whole entire sector just because they were really like uncomfortable with it, even though the people like weren't bad. They weren't damaging anyone or anything. It was just wild. And just to get the whole story behind like Belle and her mom, what happened to her mom, what happens at the end, it was so good. Number 3 is going to be Happiness Falls. This was a really, 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 really good book. I'm just going to start right there, right off the bat. This was a really good book. I enjoyed this. So this is about a family, a Korean American family. And one of the children, there's 3 children in the family and a mom and a dad. One of them, the youngest brother, has Angelman syndrome and autism. And he is unable to talk or communicate at all. So one day, the dad is out with the brother going for a walk like they do almost every single day. However, only the brother seems to comes back home. And he's covered with blood. And everybody's trying to ask questions as to what happened, but nobody seems to know. So I put out a search party for the dad, and they reached the conclusion that he likely fell off the cliff into the river. So it likely is that he's not going to remain alive. But they need to know more information because there's people that are coming forward with like videos that they were taking as they were like bird watching, and they could hear the dad being like, no, don't stop, yelling at the son. So they're just trying to put little pieces of clues together. And they are trying really, really hard to try to get him to communicate in any way that he can. But he just can't. And now the police are very much thinking that he had something to do with it. So it's just really all about like putting all of these pieces together. But the crazy thing is that like there's so much more going on within this family than just that. As they're trying to figure out what happens to their dad, they're finding a lot of their dad's documents, computers, things like that, where he was just kind of keeping some secrets from the family. And they're kind of unraveling all of that at the same time as trying to find their dad and husband, or, trying to help, their brother and son who is struggling a lot with this as well and also has some, like, mental delays. It is just really good. This was really, really well written. I really thoroughly enjoyed this book. It was a very good mystery. It was a really good getting to know about different disorders and how that can impact somebody and how there might be ways to help them communicate, even though it might take a lot of time. It was a really well done book. Number 2 is then going to be The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry. So this is the first book in comparison to A Welcome Reunion, which was my least favorite for this month, but this book is different. So this is about Hannah and Christopher. Hannah is an ER nurse and Christopher is an orthopedic surgeon, and they have been trying for a really long time, IVF, IUI, everything that they can to have a child, and they are just unsuccessful in doing so. Then a little girl named Janie comes into the hospital, and they think that she is a toddler. And they found her in this parking lot. She was dirty. She was just in a diaper. Turns out when they were doing surgeries and noticing her like bone gaps, density, things like that, that this kid was actually like 6 or 7 years old. And she is definitely terrified. She doesn't want to talk to a lot of people. She's really struggling a lot. But Christopher is the one doing a lot of the surgery on her bones, because it looked like her bones were broken in multiple places and just didn't heal correctly. And he just fell in love with her. So he was trying to talk Hannah into being like, hey, we can't adopt any other kids. We know she's going to have a life of a lot of struggles. What better parents than us to do that? We are both really well with our careers. We can pay for all the best therapy in the world. I think we should do this. Like, we can't have any other kids. It would be good just to have her and give her the love and attention she needs. And at first, Hannah was not on board because they were getting ready to go adopt a baby from another country. So she was just like, I don't know, I really want to have that newborn experience, and I know Janie needs the love and the care, but I just don't think that we're going to be the best fit for her. She's like, I think she needs a lot more than even we could offer her. But finally, Christopher talks her into like, let's foster her at least, and until they can find her like a decent foster family. And Hannah was like, okay, that sounds great. But then things slowly start happening with Janie. Janie will only talk to Christopher and will only associate with Christopher, and is very rude towards Hannah. And she just does really weird things with Hannah that she never does with Christopher. And Hannah starts getting like really creepy and really weird vibes. And now they're interviewing people, to be a foster placement or even like permanent adoption for Janie. And every time Christopher's like, nope, I don't like any of these. Nope, I don't like any of these. They're not going to be able to meet her needs. Nope, absolutely not. So finally, Christopher just like ups and tells the social worker, I think we'd like to adopt her, without talking to Hannah first. Hannah is livid. She's also struggling because they've gotten Janie into like this really, really good therapist, a fantastic therapist. And the therapist is trying to help them through. But it just is causing more tension between Christopher and Hannah, because Hannah is like, listen, she is doing these things. This is not okay. And Christopher, who's seeing a different side, is like, well, she's traumatized. She can't help it. Like, no child is innately bad. Like, there's no way a child could just be innately bad, and there's no way to help them or fix them. And Hannah's like, that's a lie. That's a lie. This kid is no. And they just argue about it, but eventually they do end up deciding to adopt her. And that's when Hannah finds out that she is pregnant with her own child's miracle baby, and she is ecstatic. But then Janie starts getting worse over time, and her behaviors are getting a lot more dangerous. And it's just like a constant battle between Hannah and Christopher. And the therapist that they're working with is like, you need to set boundaries. But then, like, if Janie didn't get her way, she would like bite her lip to the point like it would be like bleeding and she needed stitches, or she would bang her head against the wall and she had to go to like the ER. So now the ER has to call social services, and it just kind of delves into like the legal aspects of that. And then tragedy strikes with family, and there's more legal issues. I'm really glad she did write a second book, because where this left off, I probably would have ranked this lower, honestly, if I hadn't read the second part. Wait, would I? I don't know if I would have, because this was really well written, and I love like actual psychological disorders that are not super common, but are a disorder that somebody can have, and then just like how it turns out to this, and it's like a very like nature versus nurture concept. It's was very good, but it just left off on a cliffhanger, and I was like, please don't let this be the last one. And I'm glad that it wasn't. This was such a good book. That leaves my number one book to be 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult. I love Jodi Picoult. She is fantastic. She's amazing. Love her. 20 out of 10. 100 stars. So good. So this book I have read many a times. This is not my first time with it. It probably will not be my last time with it. Okay, I just like to reread her books. They're so good. This is about Peter Houghton, who goes in and murders a ton of people in his school. And what's really interesting is that it goes back and forth from like present to past. And I really, really love that writing style because you get to see through so many people's perspectives of what was going on past and present, whether that be Peter himself, his parents, Josie's mom, kids at school, detectives, whatever the case may be, goes through all of their perspectives and how they got to where they are today. And it really just makes you think, and it's very thought-provoking about just like school shootings in general, how there's more than just one side. And this is in no way trying to excuse like behaviors of school shooting, because that should never happen, ever, period. It should never happen. But I think it does like talk about a very good sense of like bullying, and how just that can really just ruin a child. You know, it can really ruin a child, and how other people are willing to bully other people so that way they're not the ones being bullied. Like, bullying has such a big impact on children. And that's not an excuse to use for like shooting up a school. But I do think that it is very thought-provoking of what can we as a country, worldwide, whatever the case may be, do to help children not have to deal with the kind of bullying that is dealt with. How do we as parents respond to that? How do we as friends of that child respond to that? How do we as those friends of that child's parents respond? What's going through everyone's heads? This is so expertly crafted, and I could try to explain this for like the next 12 hours, but this is such a good book. I would 100% highly recommend everyone read it. I know not everyone loves this book. Okay, I know not everyone loves Jodi Picoult. But I love when she presents a book and makes you think, and that's exactly what this book did. This book had me feeling every emotion under the sun. I was crying. I was so sad and so upset. I was angry. I was happy. I was confused. I was just shocked at times. There's just so many emotions that I was feeling with this book all the way through. It was so good, and I honestly think people should really read this. It was fantastic. So that is it for today's video. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me, even though I am struggling to talk. It's perfectly fine because we needed to get my thoughts out on these. So I hope that you guys enjoyed, were able to brave through my voice. Let me know what books you have read, what books you're wanting to read. Are any of these books you have read? What did you think of them? Are any of these books you are wanting to pick up? Let me know all of that down below. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you guys definitely give this video a thumbs up. This lets me know that you enjoy these videos. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe if you enjoy book content, makeup content, or both. This is definitely the channel for that. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye.